Where is he at?
Oh, hi, Mark.
Bonk. What's up, everyone? Welcome to my Whirlwind HotA Earthquakes build guide for the Season 7. Earthquakes is likely going to be one of the strongest builds this season, even compared to other classes, likely going to be the strongest. The way you proc it might differ from people to people. I do believe the Whirlwind HotA setup is going to be one of the best, if not the best way to proc it. You have a lot of weapon swap shenanigans that give you a lot of damage buffs, a lot of quality of life, and I do believe it's going to be the strongest. We also, be able to live the fantasy from Season 2 that we've not been able to, live up to since then, the Whirlwind HotA that a lot of people love. So, we have that. Now, when it comes to the build guide, as you can see here, I have four different setups. I have a leveling, a uniques when you start getting 21 glyphs, uniques when you have legendary glyphs, and then when we go to the end game. One thing I do want to point out, for the leveling version, you do need to have the tech rune, right? You do need to have it for the build to work. If you can get it early, nice, use it. If you can, I personally will be playing a pivotal setup that I normally play in the beginning of the seasons. Just works really nicely and doesn't really need anything. As soon as I get the tech rune, I'll swap to this setup. I'll link that setup down below as well as the build. Cool. You'll have all of them down below on the description. Now, also want to point out the Paragon tree here, because you will be able to notice, first of all, you have different points. What the most important setup, the bare minimum you want to have, and then two extra different setups to allow you to progress, some in the best way, at least in my opinion, right? One thing you will notice though is when you swap, these trees are completely different. Not completely different, but they have different, different setups. The reason I did this is because I want to hit my power spikes really early when leveling, because that will just make leveling way smoother and faster. So getting your Force of Nature, your Blood Rage, your Weapons Master, and Decimator. Weapon Master mostly for quality of life, but still, right? You want to get those super early. That's why I did it this way. And when you get to the uniques, either use one of the scrolls that you should get super early, because they made the season discovery thing, whatever it's called, the season journey, yeah, that thing. They made it way easier to complete, so you should get the scroll super fast. But if you don't, it shouldn't be that expensive anyway. If you don't want to bother with it, you can just start following this build. I think you're gonna be like slightly slower than the ones that go for the other one. But if you don't want to bother, you want to chill, just go for this. It's not gonna be the end of the world, honestly. The build is just broken. The earthquakes are just broken, honestly. Now, let's actually cover the end game, because this is what most of you actually care about. First of all, quickly covering the skill tree. We're gonna be running, 2 points into Launching Strike. We're not gonna be using it, we're just forced to use it here. We're gonna be running 3 points into Whirlwind. The Fierce Whirlwind, it's gonna be nice to apply bleeding for some stuff, it's not really important. But the Enhanced Whirlwind would actually give you some, some free, which is nice. Now, Hammer of the Ancients, you're gonna spend 3 points here, and we want to take Violent Hammer, simply because it gives us 40% extra damage when you overpower the Hammer of the Ancients, which you'll be doing. World Path, really nice damage multiplier, also a reason why we want to overpower. Stomp, it's gonna be nice, especially to reduce the ultimate cooldown on our Wrath of the Berserker, but it's also gonna be spawning some Earthquake, which, might as well. Martial Vigor and Imposing Presence, really nice defensive, we all know that. Rallying Cry is gonna be our way to, get some easy fortify on the build. It's also gonna give us Unstoppable and some nice resource again. We're not gonna be taking Challenging Shout, we are just so tanky, it's not even needed. Warcry, as you know, you also get the Power Warcry for 10%. Every Warcry node, because, every Shout node is just too good. 3 points into Aggressive Resist, really nice defensive. Gonna spend, first of all, 3 points in Pit Fighter, really nice damage multiplier. Slaying Strike, same thing, really nice damage multiplier. No Mercy, we're actually not gonna be crit capped, so this will help us a bit. 1 point into Thick Skin, just because we want to spend 3 points into counter offensive. Then, going on to the last wheel, heavy-handed 3 points in it, really nice. It's not gonna be crit cap, so it's not as good, but it's still pretty darn good. Wall up, it's, you know, really nice. We're gonna be exploding our earthquakes with the, you know, 200 mace, so it's just gonna multiply their damage. Heavy hitter is the star of the show here. Every rank is 15 extra damage for the earthquake. It's insane. 3-point Imperial Impulse, we might be able to take some points away here. We'll see as we play. It's just nice as we swap weapons to get this death to the resource. 5 points with Wrath of the Berserker, and every single passive, we're gonna be 100% uptiming this. So it's gonna be really good, it's gonna be pulling enemies in, it's gonna be insane. And of course, unconstrained. That's just how it goes. Now, you might notice that we don't have any Mythic Unique. And the reason is not because, oh, no one is gonna have Mythic Uniques early on. It's actually... they are not good. They are not good for the build. Legendary aspects are just so freaking strong for this build that no Mythic Unique is actually good. The only one that comes close is Starless, but the legendary one still wins out, and you get Wrath of the Berserker cooldown, which is really good for the build, as I'll explain in a second. And the reduced cost on the Starless, it's actually a detriment to the build, because we want to spend a good amount of resource, and Starless kind of goes against that, right? Now, one thing that you might be able to notice on this ring, first of all, we're running vulnerable damage instead of crit damage. The reason is, we have 100% vulnerable uptime, and will not have 100% crit chance. Ideally, you would want to have 100% crit chance, but it's not the end of the world, and just works out better this way. Vulnerable, 100% uptime because of one of the witch powers that I'll cover in a second. Now, you might also see that we have Wrath of the Berserker, you know, damage while active, instead of crit damage, vuln, or anything else. The reason is, we're gonna be able to have 100% uptime on Wrath of the Berserker, which means we can take advantage of this, instead of running crit or anything else, which I believe is like 100, maybe like 80% less or something. It's a big amount less additive damage. This is just better. Now, one other thing I want to point out on the gear is that on the amulet, of course, you're gonna want a percent strength amulet because we have the damage multiplier that, you know, you always have from your main stat. But we also have this insane aspect that, by the way, got nerfed, is not 25 anymore, it's 15, but it's still on this build that has upwards of 6k strength. It is a 900% molt on a single weapon. That's absolutely insane, absolutely bonkers. Anyway, going back to the amulet, if you can't get heavy-handed or counter-offensive, Pit Fighter and Slaying Strike are good contenders as well. You can try to go for crit chance, worst case scenario, but you know, those other two are still decent. They are just not the best of the best, right? Now, when it comes to uniques, you know, Ugly Bastard, just good. It's not 100, it's 80% now, but it's still freaking amazing. I never knew why they buffed it in the first place. You're just gonna go for the Wrath of the Berserker cooldown. You know, that's important. Get that Wrath of the Berserker low, you want it 100% uptime. Ideally even less, but whatever. Now, going into the Mantle of Mountain, this is insane. It's just double damage for your Earthquake, 60%. Like, even the Mythic Unique, the Shroud, it doesn't come close. It's not super bad, but it doesn't come close to damage, and you don't get the explosion from the altar, right? Now, one thing to point out here is that you don't really care about the aspect roll. You can get the bad one, it doesn't really matter. If you can get the better one, why not? But you know, don't worry about it. This is going to be super easy to get with the GA on Chance for Earthquakes. It's going to be super easy, super cheap, for sure. Because, again, the aspect does not matter. Another thing I do need to point out is that on the T-Vault's Will, which, you know, everyone knows where it's good, you don't really want a high maximum resource. You actually want the lowest roll, because of the shenanigans we're going to be using here. The less you have, the easier it is for you to spend 5% of it, right? Yeah, pretty simple. Now, for the rest of the gear, we're going to be covering resists on the gloves and the boots. We might want to swap the resists from the boots to a ring, and then just have Warcry ranks. I'm not 100% certain there. but, you know, mostly because Warcry, you will not be able to have 100% uptime on bosses, I don't believe, unless they have minions. So, you know, it is what it is. Now, one thing to keep in mind, chance of earthquakes, really important to get this and to masterwork this first, right? You want the max roll ideally. Then on every other weapon, you're just gonna get heavy hitter ranks and masterwork it. Like every rank is 15 damage mult for your earthquake. It's absolutely insane, right? Also, you're gonna be running a polearm because it's just better, it gives you vuln damage. You're gonna be using polearm on your whirlwind, by the way. So, you know, it's just make sure that when you swap to whirlwind, you're not reducing the damage of your earthquakes, right? Because if you don't know, if you use a sword, your actually baseline damage is actually lower. A sword or an axe, it's actually lower because it's a 1 attack per second instead of 0.9. So, you know, just make sure to use a polearm. Now, as when it comes to actually the Mercenary and the Witch powers, Mercenary is just gonna be high hair or whatever it's called, mostly because of the resist, because we're gonna have some hard time getting those resists, mostly because of the resist. And, you know, the Bastion is actually the best like multiplier not Bastion, sorry, the Inspiration is the best multiplier that you can get from the Mercenaries. Tubo is really close and it has the map hack, but like if you know the maps, you should be able to get through without Tubo ideally. When it comes to Witch powers though, we're gonna be running Paranado, whatever. It's like, it's insane, it's a lot of damage, it looks amazingly cool, and it gives you a pull, which is, you know, really cool. Now, for the rest of the powers, Shaken Soul is gonna be the way we get 100% uptime on the build. This is just gonna be really good, you don't have to worry about vulnerable uptime anywhere else on the build, just makes it so good. Now, the other one we're gonna be running is X of Shattering. This is just a nice damage reduction. I don't know to what degree we're gonna be able to make much use of that rank 8 thing. On the, like, if you're farming outside, you're gonna be able to make use of it. In dungeons, I don't think we're gonna be able to make use of it, sadly. But whatever, that's not the reason we are using it. The reason we're using it is because one of the jewels from the Witch actually gives us 4% damage mult for X or aura we have. Now for the rest, you can see here we have 3 different growth and decay. That's again because of one of the jewels we have that I'll cover in a second. Now, we're gonna be running X of Whispers because it's growth and decay and it's an act. We're gonna be running Aura of Siphoning because it's growth and decay and an aura. Now, Soul Harvest on the other hand, we're running because it's super insane. Every time you kill an enemy, right? When you use a skill or the cooldown, whatever, right? You get 1% per enemy around you. 1% strength. Your build, our build, double dips on strength. This is a lot of damage that we're gonna be able to get. I don't know to what degree we're gonna be able to carry this over to a boss. We might be able to because of the duration, right? We might be able to carry this up to a boss. If we can do it, that's gonna be insane, right? But now going into the jewels. First of all, we're gonna be running Duststone. This will just, like I was talking about, this will make our auras and nexus give us 4% damage multi. We're gonna be able to get 12% here. We're gonna have 1 aura and 2 X. When it comes to the one on the ring, it's gonna be Friend of the Bog. This is the reason we're running 3 growth and decays, because you get 8% primary stat and 10% maximum life, which is really great. And for the last one, Moonlight Ward, you're gonna be getting 3% damage reduction, which is gonna work out to 15, I believe, with a max Paranado, and 0.5% maximum resist. This is not yet updated, which is gonna work out 2.5 maximum resist with max level Paranado. Now, there are some other things here that it's worth considering. The only one I think it's worth here is the Totaling Wish. This will make the growth and decay, you know, witch powers better, 25% better, at least that's my understanding of that. Which means Soul Harvest, instead of taking 1% of primary stat, will take 1.25. You know, basically 25% more. It might be worth it over one of the others, we'll have to consider. I also want to point out some other runes, some other witch powers. X specialization, this would allow us to hit 100% crit strike chance. The thing is, I don't think we're running any of the... I think you have to run X of Flames for this to actually work out. Is it X of Flames or... No, it's X of... Where is it? No, it's some other X, I can't remember. It's just... We just don't have enough uptime on the X on the enemy for this to be worth it. Especially on bosses and AoE. So whatever. One that might be worth considering is this one, Aura Specialization. Now, as you can see there, on the critical strike damage, it has a plus, which means it's additive. Now, it's not the first time that they messed this up, and instead of being additive, it's actually multiplicative. If it is multiplicative, I'll have to find a way to get this into the build. If it's not, we're just not going to be running it, it's not worth. As you can see, I don't know if this was on Macro Park or this was as Blizzard sent it, I can't remember. On the top side, you have Aura effects, have 42% plus effect, and on the bottom side, you have 44 times effect, right? As you can see, this is not 100% certain. We'll have to see how it works in game. Right now, I'm not considering. I'm just going for, I'm just going as the wording implies, and I'm not gonna be taking. And yeah, I think that's everything I wanted to cover on the build. If you have any doubt about the build or anything, let me know down below in the comments. I'll try to answer everyone I can. And I'll be posting updates on the build going forward as I figure things out, as we find things that might be broken or might not be working properly, because I know we'll find them, right? I'll be posting updates on the build, so make sure to subscribe to not miss out on them. With that in mind, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed the build, and see you next time.